Hello everyone, welcome to Mr. Go channel. Today we're going to proceed to chapter 5.2, Living in a Diverse Society. Why is there greater diversity in Singapore now? We are going to part 2, so let's go. So living in diversity is also a series of chapters continuing from part 1 where why is there greater diversity in Singapore? And today we're going to approach one of this section. We are going to explore what are the economic opportunities and which leads to the greater diversity in Singapore. So, economic opportunity attract migrants or immigrants. They actually wanted to come to Singapore looking for employment because such opportunities do not exist in their home country, which is rather sad. Some of the countries may be in war or in turmoil, and that may be very hard for them to find the opportunity to work as the ideal job that they want because such job doesn't exist or may not yet exist in their home country. So employment opportunities are readily available in Singapore, and such a large number of businesses operate here, such as cybersecurity, and which may not be as prevalent in certain countries. In addition, multinational corporations (MNC) are attracted to Singapore because of the ease of doing business, because Singapore is very easy to set up business for them, and they have opportunities to grow. They have a stable political environment, and last but not least, we have a well-established judiciary system to help them in the law aspect. So let's take a look at the ease of doing business. We are the second in terms of rank on the list of countries with conducive business environments in 2020 by the World Bank. And Singapore is an easy place to do business because of how administrative matters are handled in a hassle-free way according to Doing Business 2020 by the World Bank. And what we do is that we simplify the process of setting up business, making it very easy to register for your company as well as to register for tax using an online form. You don't even need to go down. Then you submit your form online for construction permits, new workplace safety and healthcare regulation. All these can be done simply with the click of a mouse. And last but not least, we can actually register your property. We make it easy for you to register your property, and there is a computerized system which improves the ease of usage. So moving on to the next part where we talk about growth potential. Singapore is the first out of 50 major destinations to have the best investment potential. So it's according to this document which is called Business Environment Risk Intelligence, Berry 2014 to 2018. We have no restriction on the flow of investment money, and this means that there is no limit of how much you can invest in Singapore. We have favorable operating conditions, and these conditions means your goods can be transported at a very fast and rapid rate without much hindrance in terms of laws. We have strong diplomatic ties with a number of countries, and this means that when we export, we will face less restriction as compared to certain countries. So if you are producing or investing in Singapore, that means your goods or service will be able to reach other countries easily. And we have a stable and political economic climate, which means that the government doesn't change that easily, and that means that there isn't much of a risk of riots, of strikes, which may affect your business. Next, we have a stable political environment and a well-established judiciary system. So, we have a stable political environment, which means that our government, which is People's Action Party, does not change that easily. It doesn't mean that it will not change, but it doesn't change that easily. And we, of course, have a well-established judiciary system. And this is important because Singapore is ranked third for being the least corrupt country according to the Global Competitiveness Report in 2019. That means that your company doesn't have to pay other expenses such as bribes to ensure that your company will not be hindered when they're conducting their business. So we are one of the least corrupted in the economy in the region. We are highly valued transparency. We have clear and strict laws and legislation imposed by government over business dealings and transactions. So all this make it very clear and very easy to conduct your business. And staying competitive is important for Singapore to continue to attract business investors because they will see long-term prospect of growth. They will want to see Singapore as a place for their business for the long term and not just to stay there for a while. Which means that when they stay here, they will need to employ local Singaporeans, and this will mean a range of employment opportunities. But the question is, due to COVID-19, companies in Singapore, we can actually work at home for most workers, and that means that companies may be based in Singapore, but they may not necessarily hire Singaporean, which is something that Singapore may have to consider for the long term as well, given that companies have started to shift in terms of their employment. For our GDP, which is gross domestic products, we actually face an increase per capita, means per head or per person in Singapore over the years, because we actually have ample job opportunities and consistent investment by MNC, and this is one of the primary factors. So our GDP will increase. For continued growth and performance, both lower skilled and higher skilled manpower, they need to remain attractive to foreign companies. And how do you remain attractive? They need to be available in terms of number and quality. This would mean that we need to attract foreigners to Singapore, because we may not necessarily have that number of workers available to them. By attracting foreigners, both in terms of higher skill and in terms of lower skill workers, they will help Singapore remain competitive as well as add to Singapore diversity. Increase in migrants and immigrants seeking employment lead to greater social economy in addition to cultural diversity. So it's not just cultural diversity, we also have social economic diversity as well. And they can be highly skilled, raising the incomes of the top tier income earners or the lower skilled, which keeps wages at the bottom tiers low as well. If you take a look, these are Abercrombie models which are actually featured in Singapore, and they would be probably highly paid as well for them to come all the way to Singapore and model. For foreign manpower, they actually complement our local workforce in sectors such as construction and maritime by taking low-skilled jobs that support high-skilled professional jobs. That would mean that, for example, if you are an engineer, you would be responsible for a number of components which is important for the running of the company. But if you do not have workers underneath you to run these factories or run these machineries, that would mean that you have to do it yourself, which is not really what you're hired for. So that means that you actually need those lowly skilled jobs to ensure these highly skilled professional jobs can run as well. So many of these foreign workers come from a number of countries. They come from ASEAN member countries, they come from India, Bangladesh and China. And not only that, we have foreign domestic workers. They actually provide support for families. They care for the elderly and children while the adults are working. And these come from neighboring countries, which are the ASEAN countries, which are Indonesia, Philippines, Myanmar and Sri Lanka, and they help to contribute to our diversity as well. Let's take a look in foreign domestic worker in Singapore from 2009 to 2014. We actually face an increasing number of foreign domestic workers. You look at the numbers in the beige bars, they are actually increasing to 222,500. But a percentage of the total foreign workforce, they actually decrease over the years, except for 2014, which means the number of foreign workers in terms of domestic workers, they are actually belong to another category, which means that we actually have a increasing total number of foreign workforce as well. What can you infer about Singapore's need for foreign domestic workers in the near future? If you look at the trend of increasing numbers, what can you foresee? And why do you think so? Take a guess. I think you are right. So it's probably because of Singapore aging population, where we need more foreign domestic workers to actually take care of our elderly. And in addition, Singapore is getting more and more expensive. Singapore is known as one of the most expensive countries in the world, and that means that both the father and the mother may actually need to work to ensure comfortable living for the children, and that means that there will be no one taking care of the children, and we need foreign domestic workers, which are necessary for our workforce to stay working. Foreign professions do complement our local professional managers, executive, technician, PMETs to ensure Singapore economies remain vibrant and competitive, because as you know, our PMETs are aging as well. And so this is important because some of us actually like to think of them as competing with us, but when we take a look at the whole picture, yes, it may be competing with you for their job, but if we take a look at the whole picture of Singapore, we may actually need them to complement us, because our companies may not actually have such professionals available, and even if we do, we may not have enough. For example, PricewaterhouseCoopers. They are a famous accounting firm, one of the big four in Singapore. They actually have employees that come from around the world, including Asia, U.S.A, Europe, and they usually occupy senior positions in sectors such as banking and finance. And PricewaterhouseCoopers Management Service is an international business management consultation firm and is one of the top accounting firms in Singapore, and they employ workers from all around the world. And that means that we as Singaporeans also need to understand the need for diversity, because these MNCs do not just hire Singaporeans, they hire people from all over the world, and if they are based in Singapore, they may bring these foreign professionals into Singapore to make sure that our country can learn from their expertise as well. That'll be the end of chapter 5 part 2. Please stay tuned and you will see the next factor in part 3. Bye bye.